Welcome to Twin Signals, Metrics at Work, with Elizabeth P. Morgan. Because metrics only matter when everyone agrees on what they mean.
In this episode of Twin Signals, Metrics at Work, I speak with Caryn Jervis, Principal for Ecosystem Partnerships at Zeos, the B2B division of Zalando, Europe's largest online fashion retailer. Caryn shares how partnerships have moved from the fringes to the core of how software companies grow across the entire customer journey, from go-to-market through user engagement to expansion and renewal. At the center is her key metric, partner-influenced revenue, and the challenge of capturing ecosystem impact across complex, multi-touch interactions. We unpack why teams still get this wrong, from over-reliance on first-touch attribution to vanity metrics like the number of partners on your website rather than how many are truly active and driving outcomes. Looking ahead, Caryn describes a future where AI acts as a set of sensors across the business, detecting partner influence automatically and turning it into measurable insight for shared accountability. Hey everybody, welcome to Twin Signals Metrics at Work. I am joined by the fabulous Caryn Jervis, Principal for Ecosystem Partnerships at Zalando. Hey Caryn.
Hello. Hey everyone. Thanks for having me.
Great. Caryn, could we just kick off by maybe you could just share how you've seen the role of partnerships evolve and the metrics you've used to measure progress over the years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of how I've seen partnerships evolve, it's interesting because distribution and channel distribution is one of the oldest ways in getting your product to market. So it's actually not a new thing. But as you said, in B2B, the impact that it can have has become overly complex over the past years. And I think more important than ever is being able to measure the impact that an ecosystem and a strong ecosystem can have because of all of the touch points in the typical buyer journey and because of all the people that are helping to influence an active sales opportunity, a build out of an ecosystem or a product, and so on.
I think you mentioned that the most important metric for you is 1 + 1 = 3. Is this?
Definitely. I mean, when just partnering with someone, if it's just two companies coming together and one has one product or offer and the other has one product, service, or offer, and it's just the two coming to a customer to say, we're great. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean all that much in terms of the impact. What the customer wants to see is that working together is equaling more than just the two of those companies working in isolation, so that you have a strong value that you bring as a shared partnership towards new customers or existing customers. And by nature of that relationship, the customer gets more than working with you in isolation, right? So absolutely.
So the better together metric is the starting point.
Indeed. Yes.
And could you share a few words? Could you share a few words about your role at Zeos and what you're doing there to build the ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. So maybe I'll just say, you mentioned it already, but Zeos is the B2B arm of Zalando, or a component of the B2B arm of Zalando. Essentially, it's digital logistics at scale. So both supporting brands with logistics, fulfillment, return capabilities with actually warehouse footprint, but also supporting with a software and a services layer. That's the digital component, so that brands can understand what is the stock health, what is the assortments that they maybe have in terms of their inventory, and make smarter decisions to grow their business effectively. So that's a little bit about Zeos. And through that, partnerships ecosystem is actually critical to our growth and to our future. So not only are we part of the Zalando ecosystem, being a division within Zalando, but take all the additional marketplaces that brands sell on today from a fashion perspective. They're selling on About You or Decathlon, or they want to have logistics support for their own website, right? So there's different categories that we work with in the ecosystem. And my job is effectively to build the right relationships with those categories to ultimately help our brands do better and to grow faster. I think when we come with a partner, we have that better together, as I mentioned earlier, we have that 1 + 1 = we will grow if our customers are growing. And my job is to drive the go-to-market and commercial activities around our ecosystem and our partnerships at Zeos.
And you're setting up a team, getting the whole thing. This is the first professionalized move to nurture ecosystems at Zeos. Am I right?
And I think that a team will come maybe later. Quite foundational in terms of where we are. So not the notion of ecosystem as importance, but even Zeos as a business is a newer kind of entity within the Zalando program, and organically has had a lot of growth. And I'm helping with foundationally, strategically where we want to go, how we can really capitalize on these commercial relationships with our partnerships, and then hopefully, if done successful enough, build out a team and grow our partnerships arm as I've done previously. So,
yeah, absolutely. I should mention, strike me out if I'm wrong, but for our American friends, Zalando is like the biggest fashion retail platform in Europe. Is that right? Or in Germany?
Biggest in Europe by a landslide. So yeah, funnily enough, I was having a conversation earlier about this, buying fashion through a marketplace is not really a North American notion. As a Canadian myself, I never would have bought through a kind of online marketplace clothing that I would buy, but that's how it's bought in Europe. And Zalando has market share by a landslide in terms of how people buy clothes from high quality brands. So,
Caryn, I know you're at a foundational point at Zeos, but drawing on your experience building and scaling other ecosystem teams, what are the metrics you personally depend on most?
Yeah. So I think partner influence revenue is really the starting point for everything that we look at, and from an ecosystem perspective. So how can great partnerships and great ecosystems support growth within a business? And some of those metrics, sourced revenue. So how often is a partner bringing us into a new deal that is closing? And we wouldn't have had access to that customer, that deal, be it not for the partner that had introduced us there. Connected to that is pipeline contribution. So you can look at pipeline contribution on the basis of partner sourced revenue and actual introduction, but you could also look at it in terms of, we do a great marketing event with the partner, and standing on stage with that partner means that we can generate leads, opportunities, and contribute to pipeline and awareness of our brand, right? So this pipeline contribution, looking at more the product or technical partnership. So how, if we've built an integration or a partner has built an integration into our product, how often is that integration being used? So integration adoption is what I call this. And I don't know the exact stat, but I can say that in B2B SaaS, that if you do not have integrations built out and you do not continue to use the systems and connect the systems that your customers use, they will go somewhere else where they do this. And it's really also from a stickiness perspective. So how long will your customers stay with you? Integration adoption is a very key metric for this, because if they have to rip apart their systems to move to you, it's very unlikely that they will. Connected to that is net retention revenue, so NRR, right? So compared to where partners have influenced a deal, how much more are customers staying with us, and from a retention perspective. And integrations is one aspect, but NRR could be looked at from a partner contribution as well. For example, if you have partners that are supporting on implementation, service delivery, these types of things, managed services for your customers, more often than not, they're they're helping retain that business because they're delivering a very excellent service to the customers that you share. That's looking kind of business metric wise, but there are some that I also really like to look at with my team. So with an actual partner manager, I look at these now for myself, being a team of one at Zeos. How well am I doing my partner management activities? And a big one for this is I look at how many joint business plans do I have in place with my partners that actually are committed to, hopefully up to the executive level, where we have aligned on our shared goals. We are tracking those shared goals and we have plans corresponding to those goals. And so a executed joint business plan, but again, that is not just something that lives somewhere and we don't actually use it, but that is acted upon. And the other thing is partner management wise. So if you have an ecosystem of partners, how many of those are active? And they're active means like they're not just a logo on your website, but they're doing activities with you and with us, marketing, whatever it may be. So those are some of the things I look at from a partner management perspective.
As thorough as always, Caryn. And what about, I mean, there are so many metrics swirling around us these days. What is it that you ignore? Like which metrics do you throw out?
Yeah. I read a book sometime last year, and it coined this term vanity metrics. And I really loved it because I thought, wow, actually in partnerships, this can happen quite easily, not just partnerships, but you might decide, let's try to get as many partners as possible and go through a huge acquisition campaign. And none of those partners were active. So you might have 500 partners listed on your website. The metric I told you I would look at for partner management is they're actively contributing to that shared growth and customer success. But a vanity metric would clearly be something that says, great, we have 500 partners and no one talks to them ever, but it's logos on our website that doesn't mean anything for our business, right? That would be the strongest, like these vanity metrics alongside partner acquisition would be something that I would really ignore and I think is absolutely a bad signal in terms of ecosystem growth and impact. So you're just counting, no follow through and no outcome from the work of getting the partners on the board, right? So that brings us really back to this. Ultimately, what counts for you is our partners influencing revenue, whether it's sourcing or giving a nudge along the way, or contributing their brand reputation or helping to get the renewal over the through the approval process again, or an expansion. So for you, what is partner influenced revenue? Could you give me your metric? Yeah. So I would look at partner influenced revenue as a percentage of essentially the partner revenue divided by the total revenue in the business. That's the formula I would use to calculate that.
And the challenge in there is really unpacking what is sourced. Did I get that right? What does sourced mean?
I think one of the challenges, indeed, not the only challenge. I think I've experienced this in the past as well, where a business wants to look only, for example, at a first touch attribution, in terms of measuring contribution to a deal, let's say. And more often than not, partners may not introduce you at the outset to that lead, but they help you unlock a stalled deal. They help you move it forward. They actually are the ones that help you get it over the line. And if you only look at it on the first touch, you would never acknowledge that, wow, that partner influenced, and we wouldn't have had that revenue if we only looked at the first touch attribution. That's another key challenge that we face. But there's many. I mean, you said at the beginning, this is a really complex topic, right? And it also is about a mindset shift in the organization to recognize things in maybe a less linear way. That there is going to be partner influence, there is going to be ecosystem influence that can come in at different directions from different angles. So, and capturing that, I think, not just the partnership team dragging people behind, but shifting the mindset of the organization to recognize these things.
Caryn, I guess when you're used to working with metrics, more often than not, they're confirming your understanding of the business, your expectations. But I guess we're all in this to really gain insight and unexpected ahas from the numbers. And I'm wondering whether you could share a moment when a metric revealed an unexpected insight that led to a positive outcome or led you to change direction substantially, when a metric made an impact, a big impact on a decision.
Definitely. So it reminds me of a time a few jobs ago where, let's say, partnerships performance in terms of contributions towards some of the metrics I spoke to earlier, pipeline contribution, sourced or influenced revenue. We had the challenge I mentioned before that we were only looking at first touch attribution. But what was really surprising to me is marketing was coming to every commercial leadership meeting we had saying, wow, we have so many leads this month. Look at how many are coming through, and like, we're doing such a great job. And it's not that they weren't doing a great job, but I started digging into that metric and I said, how come we've been having so many leads? And I realized actually majority of those leads were agency people themselves, not actually end customers. And those agencies were approaching us to say, well, we have a customer that might be interested to work with your platform. And it was running through a regular sales cycle. So someone in sales was then speaking with this agency, not necessarily differentiating that this was not a prospect in the customer sense. This was a prospective partner that had a business opportunity for us, was a lead in some sense, but a lead for partnerships rather, and an opportunity. And when I found this out, I worked with marketing to say, let's have, at least in a first conversation, a partner manager and a seller. The seller can assess the opportunity behind the agency, and the partner manager can assess the agency in terms of potential for collaboration in the future. They didn't love it at first because, of course, it meant their lead contribution count, if we differentiated in this way, went down. But when I made the case, this is how we're going to actually contribute to revenue if we do these things effectively, it made sense to them. And then we reshaped how we did that. And this was a way that a metric really surprised me, and then also drove a specific action and impact for our business when we were handling them in a better way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess it's also, it might look nice on the lead count, but then it's not going to look nice on the win-loss rate, right? Because you're not going to be seeing conversions because your partners are bringing an additional multiple of risk into the conversion ratio when they're moving through that.
Absolutely. And I think the other important element here was a lot of those partners, they may have only brought us that one lead if we didn't give them the effort of understanding where the collaboration could potentially be between us. And can we make that something repeatable? You've had interest in us, but and salespeople, I've been a salesperson myself, so it's no judgment here, but you're focused on closing the deal. You're not necessarily focused on repeating that deal through a third party, which is the job of a partnerships team. And by nature, the conversation would have been different. So
just expecting that linear progression that you would expect from any prospect, when actually by better understanding the sources and recognizing these agencies and partners coming in, you're also able to design motions for them that are about how can we make you a multiplier for us, not just how can we help you close this deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just even to wrap around that, we relied on agencies to implement our solution in this business. We relied on them to develop the solution for our customers. And what they needed often, if it wasn't the initial person approaching us, it was someone in their business to know, okay, great. Then if I bring you my book of business of other potential customers who are interested in this, they wouldn't necessarily understand this is the potential revenue outcome on your implementation work and your service work around our product, because it would have never been something that our sales team would have brought to the forefront to say, great, let's do this project together, but you have a lot more potential for earning if you do more projects with us, because you're going to be the ones implementing it. You're going to be the ones delivering the ongoing service and development for us.
So conversely, could you share a moment when the numbers conflicted with what you knew was really happening inside your team? Like a breaking point where the metrics told the wrong story and it was obvious to you that that was the case?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, it's a bit connected to the notion of vanity metrics that I described earlier, but I inherited a team, and the way that team was being measured was on how many partners that they acquired into our business. So they would speak with a partner, they would sign a partner agreement, and their job was done. They weren't driving the impact there. Of course, some of them did do more impact, but just to keep it kind of succinct in that sense, right? And then they were having all sorts of conversations with those partners. Maybe they were the wrong partners. Maybe they were not driving the right impact that we have, because this idea of activating those partners beyond just signing them or acquiring them into our business, and again, throwing a logo on the website, meant that the results effectively were kind of meaningless down the line and not driving the right results for the business.
So what did you do to turn that situation around?
Yeah, so I first of all completely overhauled the metrics that my team were measured upon. So some of the metrics I described earlier were the kind of KPIs that my team were then measured on. So looking at it from, what is your portfolio? How much are we influencing revenue? How many of those joint business plans are you doing with the right partners? Reduced the number of partners that my team talked to significantly then, because we basically redesigned our ideal partner profiles. So it said, it's not good enough if you're anyone. It's good enough if we know, and we've hopefully seen some proof point, or we've been requested to work with you from a customer prospect. I always match it to our ideal customer profile, right? So refined the ideal partner profile, reduced the number of partners that my team were actively managing, and reshaped the KPIs in which they were measuring on, so that I didn't care if they acquired 10 partners a week. I cared that one of those partners contributed to a business outcome in a reasonable duration of time based on the work that they did with those partners to drive that activity.
Yeah. And tracking that influence along the life cycle. Yeah,
Exactly.
From the pipeline contribution to the net revenue retention.
Exactly. And on the life cycle, I think, is an important one, because that's another thing I did, which was redesign exactly how we think about partner life cycle. So there's a customer life cycle, of course, from acquisition through to advocacy. And I said, well, let's look at that from a partner perspective, because they also have a life cycle with us and they also have a journey with us. And I looked at, okay, how many of those partners are moving from a discovery conversation to a joint business planning session? And how many of those joint business planning sessions are moving towards a first introduction or an integration build, or you name it, right? And I redesigned that. And these were the things I talked to my team about. How are you progressing? Even if they were progressing with one, how are you progressing along this? And where's the impact, exactly as you say, of the influence along that life cycle?
A partnership ecosystem function really is touching all areas of the business, but per definition. So when you're thinking about your metrics, you have to think about them across functions. And I'm just wondering what kinds of situations you have been in where the meaning of the same metric differed between teams.
Yeah, I think it's a daily struggle and something that, it first of all starts with a bit of a mindset shift. So I've often seen the setup in an organization that partnerships is a siloed team and they fall somewhere within the organization. But I think if you think of partnerships, ecosystem builders as an overlay to all growth functions within a B2B business, and that partners and partnership professionals can contribute to customer success, can contribute to sales, can contribute to marketing, can contribute to product, then indeed we should share the metrics And there should be no fighting amongst us in terms of, was that lead generated from marketing, or did someone from the sales team do prospecting and generate that lead? Or was it because product was brilliant and thought of this new integration we needed to build? It's like, okay, great. Well, in every one of those ways, we can work with partners to either help us speed up or help us have capabilities for customer success that are better than if we did it alone. And I think if we can just stop wasting time on this kind of interfighting amongst functions and recognize if we collaborate better, then we'll be able to achieve more. And I think it's connected to a fundamental belief that I have, which is like, I mean, the best and the growing B2B SaaS businesses of today and of tomorrow are not thinking that they need to go it all alone. They're recognizing where they have their skills and their strengths, and they're looking on their ecosystem to amplify, to multiply the impact through everything we've been discussing so far today.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the ecosystem as a moat, right? As in all of these things. So in terms of this disconnect about metrics, it's not so, and people know what the metrics are. They're just claiming credit, wanting to claim the credit within their function for an outcome that obviously, or even less obviously, has a fundamental partner influence. Is that right?
Yeah. I think definitely that, well, it needs to happen at a leadership level, this mindset shift, right? That says, again, we're all here to grow a business and we should all work together on shared KPIs to have that impact, right? And I think there's a little bit of ego removal that needs to happen and that needs to be kind of shared across the organization, that like you'll win more effectively if there's a collaborative effort, not even just internally, but also externally. That's the kind of winning attitude you need, I think, to grow. So yeah, this resistance, let's say, to not having to take the glory, let's say, for vanity metrics or some other metrics. Yes.
Sharing the bonus too, perhaps.
Yes.
Share the metric, share the upside.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation also on what's the right compensation plan for partnership, sales, all of these types of things, right? But absolutely, yeah. And I think this is the mindset shift that needs to really adapt within an organization that's actually going to succeed.
And assuming you get everyone on the same page about the importance of the ecosystem across functions and the importance of shared metrics across the partner ecosystem and these different functions. Is there, assuming you conquer that and you're satisfied with that understanding, is there a metric that you wish the companies you worked with understood at a deeper level? Is there a partner or ecosystem metric that is misunderstood?
Yeah, so I think the metric that's most often misunderstood is this notion of an active partner, right? So active partner for me means a partner that is contributing to our business and or our customer success in a meaningful way. I won't extend to what I said earlier, which is, of course, we also need to contribute to their business in a meaningful way, but sticking to kind of what do I wish an organization or a business better understood? It's that having a signed agreement with a huge technology company, if you're a startup, doesn't really mean anything. What matters, what means most, is that we work with a partner who is activated to meaningfully contribute to our business. And that contribution can look a number of different ways. That's why it's an influence metric that I want to look at, right? So in that contribution, as said, it could be they collaborate on a white paper with us And their presence on that collaboration, on that white paper, means that we get many more eyeballs and we're seen as a wonderful thought leader in the industry that we wouldn't be able to, at the stage we are, do without that partner. Or I've talked about other ways, right? But this active partner notion, it's not just about a signed or a partner with a handshake, but it's a partner where we are driving meaningful business outcomes together.
Life after the logo goes on the board, huh?
It's my pleasure to share that Twin Signals, Metrics at Work, is sponsored by HelloTwin.ai, the semantic operating system for SMEs. Hello Twin, stop managing agents, start managing outcomes. Launching June 24, 2026.
There's so much going on around us, of course, and every day in every way with AI. And I'm wondering what your experience has been so far with AI and metrics as an ecosystem builder.
Yeah. I think, first of all, the ways in which I'm trying to use AI from a partnerships perspective, ecosystem perspective. So one is basic stuff like taking a potential partner's website, taking our website and having it do some of the mapping. Do we have shared ICPs? Is this a partner that at the outset we're trying to market to the same people? So to do this analysis work for me. Similarly, when it is a partner that I've been working with, to help shape a joint value proposition between us. So why is it that us plus that partner, the 1 + 1 = 3, not just 1 + 1 = 2? And extending that to helping build out joint business plans. So based on call notes, different emails, conversations that we've been having, pulling that all together and help to guide a joint business planning approach with the partner. My vision on some of those things that I've talked about, to connect it to metrics more specifically, is I would love, for example, to connect different systems, different tools, different data sets like CRMs on both sides or account mapping software or these types of things. And if we just take it into the joint business plan system, tell me what the goals should be. How many opportunities should we expect to generate together? How can we capitalize on our total addressable market together through marketing efforts, and guide me on the right numbers based on past performance and projections for future and performance? This is my vision of where I want to go, but I'm starting with some of these foundational aspects, at least at the outset.
Yeah, and I guess the on the other side of that, you can also ideally set the goals and then have the AI tell you where you could optimize performance, or which partnerships have more potential to grow, short term, medium term, long term, and so on. So, looking ahead, which metrics do you think will matter most in the future? And can you imagine how you could be working with metrics in ecosystems in the not too distant future?
If I think about the future, I think about AI being the ones to do that attribution for the business, so that they can recognize the noise, the signal, the touch points in a journey, and they recognize that this is happening by partners. I think AI will soon be able to help with this complexity, this mindset shift, all the things that we've discussed today, by actually providing the evidence based on all of the data available to us on how a partner has influenced our business. So being able, it's not someone from my team or myself or a salesperson that has to tag when a partner has maybe been involved, but the AI can recognize through a sales cycle, through an integration build, whatever it may be that we're looking at from a metric perspective, and tell on a percentage level, this is how much partner influence has happened for this customer or across our entire business, right? And getting this automation and moving away from this manual. And then there's less need maybe to evangelize this mindset when the proof is in the pudding. This is there, and AI has just now informed us that our business is 90% partner influenced. So let's rally around this as a motion, and I think that's where AI will take us in the future.
Cool. So it's really like AI is the sensors of partnership influence across the business, and then channeling those signals into metrics that clearly explain the meaning, the revenue impact of your ecosystem on your business.
Exactly. Yeah. Into metrics that matter.
Into metrics. Hey, Caryn, thank you so much for sharing your idea. I got to say, I want to go out and find partners and build ecosystems. I'm very, very motivated after our conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to Twin Signals, Metrics at Work. See you next episode.